Hello, welcome, and good afternoon. Sorry, that was quite loud, wasn't it? My name's Laurence, and I'm a Senior Insight Manager at CAM. And today I'm going to be talking to you about competitive socializing. About 10 minutes in, Lauren, Head of Sales and Marketing at Junkyard Golf, will be coming up and we'll be having a discussion, and there'll be an opportunity for questions in the last kind of 5 minutes. So competitive socializing, I'm not sure whether it's a term you are familiar with or not familiar with. It kind of is exactly what it says it is. It's the opportunity to socialize in some sort of competitive environment. And I guess the reason why we're here today to talk about this on the movers and shakers stage is competitive socializing is massively on the rise. So I don't know whether you've experienced it. There's loads of venues in London, but also all around the UK. And you can see we asked a survey to around 550 people, and I'm just going to take you through a few of the results. So as you can see, we asked the exact same question last year, and 27% of people to a NatRep audience had said they'd been to a competitive socializing venue. That was now 39% this year. So as you can see, massively on the rise, and this is why we're kind of talking about it as a new venue to serve some of the same occasions we have done in traditional venues, but just offering so much more choice of experience and opportunities to socialize. And then, sorry, this is a little bit small, but in terms of who is going to these venues, at the moment you can see anything over that top line, so anything over 100 over-indexing in going to these venues. So you can see at the moment it is still quite London-centric, but also city-centric when you break it down, so in urban areas. And it is definitely being driven by Gen Zs and millennials in terms of who are going. And I think that will start to change and it will start to broaden out, but these often are seen, as you've seen with Low and No, can often be like the early adopters. So those are the types of people we are seeing really driving this trend to competitive socializing. And we do a lot of research, CAM, within the hospitality space, and at the moment in terms of, I won't bore people around cost of living pressures and all that, people are reducing the amount of times they go out. You're seeing this kind of trend of this weekend millionaire who likes to go out but is willing to spend a lot, but just reducing the amount of times they go out. But when they go out, they're willing to pay for that experience and top quality food and beverage. Competitive socializing, and this is sort of further vindication that it's kind of bucking the trend and really leading in this, is actually bucking that trend. So we can see here that 32% are going out more than they were last year, and only 22% are going out less. Now, when we ask that for bars, restaurants, even more so in nightclubs, that's kind of switched. So this is actually kind of bucking the trend, and it seems a little bit more resistant to the economic pressures that we're all experiencing. And then in terms of the types of games, you can see at the top here, you've got a lot of traditional games that you'll be very, very familiar with, some that you'd see in kind of traditional pubs and bars. But down the bottom, you can see things like the arcades, virtual reality, virtual shooting, loads of different different types of games are now coming to the fore. And that's actually really being driven by those who are very loyal to this sector. So those who are looking for the next new big thing. So I'm sure you see quite a lot of it on LinkedIn and Instagram, all these new kind of innovative venues that are coming out that is really driving this sector as well. And then there's also this element of multiple activities in the same venue. We did an event specifically on competitive socializing a few weeks ago, and someone called it the Wandsworth Triangle. I don't know if people are familiar with that area, but in the space of about 250 meters, you've got Strike, Boom Battle Bar, and Gravity. And these are all these multiple activity venues where they've got lots of different things you can do. So it's not just bowling, it's not just golf, it's not just your darts. You can do them all in one visit. And actually, when people do go, 83% of them are using multiple activities. So this is just another thing to keep in mind. This isn't just necessarily a specific darts or snooker. This is multiple activity venues as well in this sector. And then from an NPS perspective, they're doing really, really well. And we don't know whether this is necessarily down to the brilliant kind of staff or the food and beverages, but overall they are outperforming the hospitality sector minus competitive socializing there, and that's following on after Christmas. So whether it's the total experience, the activity, people are really recommending this to their friends and families. And actually that's a really good point that we'll come on to speak about. From our research, the word of mouth was the highest form of discovery. So I think 62% of people have heard of venues through their friends and families telling them about it. So because it's such a brilliant, innovative, kind of exciting experience, it's something people are willing to share with those they know and love. And then this is a really, really interesting point as well. Me and Lauren were just discussing it off stage, was these venues are very much seen in conjunction with the rest of hospitality. It's not necessarily that people will go, right, I'm going to that venue and then I'm going to go home. They're going to it as part of potentially a crawl or a circuit, however you might call it. Not often at the end of the evening, but actually at the start and the middle. I'll just go on to this slide here. This is from Wireless Social, which monitors Wi-Fi logins. And you can see that only 23% of their Wi-Fi logins come after 8 p.m. in competitive socializing. So it's a real opportunity for the sector to try and capture that later night spend. But it's just to show that people are starting their nights there with their friends, having a drink, and then going on to somewhere else or for some food. But a real opportunity to try and change that as well. And then just going back to this one, this is around total dwell time. So the amount of dwell time in competitive socializing venues at the moment is at 86 minutes. And I know that is above all of hospitality there, but there's opportunity to increase that, because you have to bear in mind people are doing an activity here that might last an hour. So what we see a lot is people come, they do the activity, they might have a drink while they're doing the activity, and then go somewhere else. So that's a real opportunity for the sector, and that is how I think this really links well to Imbibe and offering that really quality food F&B offering to make sure they're staying there, as opposed to going to somewhere that specialises in that, like just a bar. And if we can improve that food and drinks offering, you can see here, then people are likely to do lots of these things. So spend more money when they're there, visit more often, or bring different extra people. So this is the real opportunity to try and kind of increase that spend per head and that loyalty within customers, is saying you don't just have to play the game here, come and enjoy a drink and some lunch here as well. And then specifically on the drinks, we asked competitive socializing goers what they are more likely to have. And you can see here that cocktails, jugs, so things in different formats, particularly as it's quite a social occasion. I think the average group size is it's about 4.5 for people who go here. And then you've got the massive work socials and occasions as well. So really having that opportunity to excite through the type of drinks that you offer. And you can see there, Gen Zs on the right, much more likely to want cocktails when they go out, and that links into that, maybe not going out as much, but when they go out, they're going out for a really good time and willing to spend. And then the final slide was just, I've only really touched on the idea of competitive socializing venues, so designated golf venues or darts or whatever. But there's actually this opportunity, and lots of regular pubs and bars are looking into this, where they have this sort of dead space at the moment. How can they maybe bring a shuffleboard in? Or how can they bring in, I know pool tables have been around for ages, but doing something a little bit more exciting, or VR headsets. So I think that's something to really expect to see over the coming years, of sort of your more traditional venues branching out into this, particularly if they don't have any competitive socializing venues near them. This is a real point of difference that they can provide that local community. So, yeah, my key takeouts is sector's growing massively, which is great, and that's why we're on the movers and shakers stage, I guess. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. It's very cheesy, but yeah, people are going there and then going and exploring somewhere else, so it's not that end venue for most. It's outperforming casual dining. It's doing really good stuff at the moment from experience perspective, so lots of learnings to be taken from that. Driving additional spend and dwell time through that F&B offering. That's a real opportunity for the sector. And also, you're about to see it, regular pubs and bars really capitalising on not changing their whole venue, but just adding a few elements in to bring that in. So I'm now going to invite up Lauren Cassels, so Head of Marketing and Sales at Junkyard Golf, and we're going to discuss the sector and have sort of some tangible insights from Lauren, and then open up to any questions. So Lauren, to start us off, do you want to just tell us a little bit about Junkyard Golf and yeah, a bit about it?
Sure. Oh, the mic is working. Great. So sure, I work for Junkyard Golf Club. We are a crazy golf venue. We're in 6 key cities. We're about to open our 7th site in Camden in August. And yeah, I guess we're 6 years old, so we've been on the competitive socialising team for quite some time.
Awesome. Yes,
quite
I've been.
Some time, as in like in terms of competitive
Yeah,
socialising.
relatively, yeah. No, I've been to the one in Newcastle. It's fantastic venue if you get a chance to go and visit. So we saw there some stats around how it's growing relative to hospitality. Is that what you're seeing, and is kind of in terms of reasons why that might be? Like, have you got any thoughts as to why that is?
Yeah, sure. Definitely is what we're seeing. And I think for us, people are looking for more than just a night out, right? Gen Zs are drinking less, making more responsible choices. There are lots of different reasons, but what we offer is a environment where people can feel relaxed and not pressured into drinking or doing any of those things that a big night out once used to entail, i.e. going to a nightclub or things like that. So we see we over-index in special occasions, so hen do's, stag do's, birthdays. Date night is really key occasion for us. And we think that is because we provide an environment where everybody feels comfortable and everybody feels relaxed.
And you mentioned there, it's sort of, you feel it's a bit of a replacement, a bit more relaxed for that big night out, and people aren't just necessarily coming for a drink. I guess obviously being here in Imbibe, but are you seeing people's drinks habits changing in any way, or you're not sure?
When we talk to our guests, they definitely say they want to see more, I guess like you saw on the slide, more low and no options available. But what we do see is that the low and no options and the zero alcohol beers and the like are always in the bottom 25% of sales. What we have seen a big focus on, I guess, is that our guests, again, like you mentioned, are still willing to part with their cash and still want a quality product, quality experience. They're just doing it less and less. So if it is somebody's birthday, they are willing to spend the money and they want a premium product rather than what 5 or 8 years ago in the in the environment we were doing, quad vods and double, £2 for £5 drink, all that stuff. They're happy to spend the money on a premium product. So we're definitely seeing that. And value for us just isn't about how much they're partying with. It's the entire experience. So the interactions with guests, the atmospherics, like how it looks on, it's Instagram and socials, TikTok is really big for us. So the visuals are really key. How does it look? How do we pull it all together to deliver value? Okay,
and that's probably quite a good segue there from you said the visuals, because it's extremely visual. It's junk that's been made into amazing golf courses, and so it's very shareable. Is that how you mainly reach customers, or obviously our research said kind of the word of mouth and people tell about it? Did you know how you're reaching them?
Yeah, we did some focus groups recently with 18. We did 2 sets: 18 to 21-year-olds, 21 to 25. Word of mouth, again, reflecting what you found, was 100% how they were saying they were discovering venues. But in the slightly older group, which surprised me somewhat, so 21 to 25, social media played a huge part in that, TikTok specifically. People are using TikTok like I would use Google. Nights out in London, nights out in Manchester, best date night. So we use that as TikTok is core in our marketing strategy. I think providing great content and a great experience is vital, and that is true with our drinks too. There's no surprise that our top 2 selling drinks are the most visual drinks that we sell. So the most colourful, they've got the best, most flamboyant garnishes. That's not what we're seeing in drinks trends elsewhere. Elsewhere we're seeing clean lines, nice glassware, but for us, the flamboyant, over-the-top drinks are the biggest sellers and the ones that we see most in our UGC online.
And would you say the drinks drive people to visit, or is it everyone's coming to play golf? But do you see a time when someone might be like, I'm going to come and have a drink with friends, or will it always be the golf, and that's happy with that?
I think golf is obviously a huge part of that. We would love people to come and join us just for a drink, but really they're coming through the door for golf. I think there are some competitive social brands that do that really well. Flight Club, for example, their bar is always packed and they create a bar environment. For us, we really want people having that experience, putting the people through the courses, and if we can get additional spend out of them with a couple of drinks, pre, post, on the course, brilliant. But a lot of it is about the golf for us.
And one question that this is just sometimes when I go to these venues, not a bugbear of mine, but how operationally do you do it when you're walking, if you're playing golf and like with the drinks? I know it's quite a difficult thing to do. If you're on hole 4, it's not a proper golf course. You're not like a mile away from the clubhouse. But how do you get drink and just keep that spend per head?
We have bars on the courses. They're primarily focused on speed of service. So the worst thing for us really is congestion on the course. It makes for a poor experience for our guest. So the course bars are cans, spirit mix, real fast service style. We did order. I'm a massive fan of order and pay. I know it brings a lot of like PTSD from COVID times, but I'm a massive fan of order and pay. But our guests just don't seem to want it. So we're looking at things like vending machines and other quick ways to get people the drink that they want while they're playing the game, but they don't want to lose their spot. They don't want to, go backwards, mess people around. Like, it is really challenging. Mr. Yorm are doing some really good stuff there. They've got some great technology where they like measure where you order and then where you will be on the course when your drink is ready. We're not there yet, but I would really like to be. Yeah,
vending machines are interesting. I saw a couple of bars in Manchester that had that. And I guess you're an over 18 venue as well, so that kind of
predominantly
cuts that. I know you have sometimes you come in, but so that's quite good. And in terms of dwell time up there and that 8 p.m. kind of cut off, does that surprise you? Do you see there as an opportunity, or are you kind of like, no, actually we just need to really own this kind of pre-night out, so let's call it something very different, but pre-night out occasion?
Yeah, I think I'm going to give you a really fluffy answer. It's a bit of both. So we own the fact that we are the first venue for most people. It helps us with recruitment. Like, our teams and our guests like the fact that they don't have to work till 3 a.m. Everywhere finishes at 12. Like, it's really good for the team morale. However, we'd all like to get extra spend out of our guests, right? Yeah. So how do we do that? I think post 8 o'clock, it's about range, creating the right environment in the bar. So we put DJs on, have some kind of entertainment, that kind of stuff. Atmospherics is key, but having a good, strong range of drinks will encourage those guests that do want to stay longer. But yeah, it's also okay to own the fact that you're just part of somebody's night out and just make that bit great. That's okay too.
Okay, and then, so with your sort of marketing hat on, and we touched on, I guess, the social media side, but what are you guys doing in terms of trying to reach new people? Or is it kind of that 12% up year on year is like fantastic, like in terms of 39% of people have visited, and if that continues, I guess you'll benefit from that. But what are you guys doing in terms of trying to get your kind of fair share of that pie, if not more of it, of the people who are now wanting to experience this? Yeah, so it's kind of split, right? So you want to attract new guests, and you want to make the guests that have been come back. So we've got a real big focus on retention and trying to get an additional visit out of guests. That for us is predominantly data-driven. So we use Airship, and thankfully 70% of our tickets are booked online ahead of time. It means we get that person's data. We know more about them than most hospitality industry. I've worked in hospitality a long time, and a lot of the time you just hope that person walks through the door, particularly if you don't do bookings. We're really fortunate. So big data strategy about retention, and that for us is about moving people through our proof of presence segment. So proof of presence is basically how often a person is seen in your venue, and there are a number of different trigger points that we use, whether it's Wi-Fi logins, tickets, whatever it might be. And for every 3% that we move guests from bronze into silver, it's worth about 100 grand. So we have a really big focus on that. And that is, free drink on your birthday. It's there's nothing groundbreaking, but free drink on your birthday. Tell us what you think for 50% off your next game. Little stuff like that. And then new guests, we primarily, our biggest area is paid. So Google and social. We get about 55% of our online tickets through that strategy. And yeah, I guess we're at Imbibe, so the part where drinks play the biggest part is our
our organic social. So Instagram for us is like the vibe check. It's where, we're not looking for followers or engagements. Our expectation and what our research shows is that people will go to your Instagram, have a little look. Is this a bit of me? Do the drinks look good? Is it the right experience? And then leave. And again, that is okay. Our TikTok is where the personality is and where we're looking for growth. So our teams making the drinks, telling our guests what their favourite drinks are. That's where the the personality lives on the brand. So yeah, quite
awesome.
Split.
And then, in comparison to a traditional bar, pub, how are you seeing in terms of your week? Obviously, we've spoken there before 8 p.m., but in terms of the breakdown of days, are you seeing, is it very predominantly Friday, Saturday, or how's that breakdown?
No, I mean, yes. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, peak days. We see a big uplift in some cities. So Oxford, Liverpool, for example, at half term, we have a big uptick. But unlike other hospitality venues that I've worked for in the past, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays are still really strong. And we think, and what we see is a lot of corporate guests with a perfect environment for team building, socialising. Particularly, there are so many restrictions on corporate spend these days. It's, it can't be all alcohol. There's got to be a percentage of, activity or food or whatever that is. So we make a great destination for those guests. Yeah,
I think from our research, 30% of the people who had been through a work social, so it was the third, fourth highest. So it's a massive sort of occasion driver. So just before we go to some questions, more generally speaking, so obviously you guys 6 years, Junkyard Golf, you've seen many more bars are now coming out of the woodwork, and which is great, and it's driving sort of development and exciting. What do you see the next 5 years? Do you just see kind of a continuation of that, or consolidation? What do you see?
I definitely see that there's still loads of room for growth. The more people that experience it, the more people enjoy it, the more people will hear about it and look for it and want to do that in return. So definitely still room for growth. And like I say, the corporate spend is more and more restricted. Gen Z are drinking less and less. Definitely an area for growth. I think there are some really great brands doing some incredible stuff. So NQ64 doing brilliant collaborations. The venue in Shoreditch have collaborated with Burgerism, so more food and more premium quality food too, but whilst still being fun and relevant to the brand. I referenced them before, but Flight Club having that perfect blend of experience and bar. So I think there's still loads to do and loads to change. And then what you're seeing more and more of is the multi-experience venues, the bigger venues, and there's still loads of space for those as well, particularly Ghetto, for example, destination-led venue. They're all slightly out of town, still doing incredibly well. People are willing to travel, so that shows, for me, that there is definitely still room in the market.
Yeah, I think the event where we had, which you were at sort of a month ago, someone spoke about when you were younger and you had the cinema, bowling, and laser tag all in one place in more town venues, because you don't have enough. There's not enough desire for all the individual ones, so put them all together with a Pizza Hut and saying that might be the next for competitive socialising to go to these smaller kind of towns, because at the moment it's quite sort of urban city based, but how do you get there? So I think that could be interesting as well. And for Junkyard Golf, is big plans? I don't know if you're able to reveal anything or.
Yeah, I mean we will stick with the urban city areas. But so we've got a couple of venues that we're looking at now, and then hopefully within the next 12 to 18 months we'll be over in America. So we're looking at sites over there too, where the growth I think is huge. There's not a lot like it out there at the minute. Top Golf in Vegas, for example, it's definitely not as fun as what we're providing here in the UK, and obviously much more space to go at, bigger cities. So yeah, America for us is.
Yeah, the US seems to be the big one. So, questions? No, you could take my mic. We're going one mic. So, has anyone got any questions?
Hi there, thanks for that. I had a quick question around Obviously, we've spoken a lot about the competitive socializing scene, but do you think there's a space for both alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages in a more collaborative space, like escape rooms, for example, for someone who doesn't want player versus player, but rather player versus game, where we're working together in a cooperative sense?
Do you want to go?
So, sorry, in the sense of they go on their own to...
No. As in, so you're going out with a group, but instead of saying, okay, we're going to play pool or darts where it's scored, there's a leaderboard at the end, we don't really want competition in the sense of the word versus each other. We want us versus a game like an escape room, which is the main example I thought. You know, thinking about logistically, I don't know how it would work, but if people don't want to play against each other, but they want to have drinks as well.
Yeah, so I think NQ64 is a fantastic example of that, if you've been. And then at this competitive socialising event we did, there was a fair bit of representation from the escape room side of it. It definitely is considered within it. I think what's interesting, and a lot of people spoke at this event around, if you were to have like the simple tick points of a competitive socialising venue, it is a way to score. And also what a lot of them do, which I guess is trickier to do in golf, is have a way of making it easier of varying levels of ability. So, for example, with Flight Club, you could go and be someone who's quite a good darts player and you get beaten by someone who's never held a dart before, which is the brilliant nature of it. And the same with clays as well, that if you miss your first few shots by a long way, little tip, it makes it easier for you, so you get a higher score. But I think those are the classic ways of doing it, of scoring or having a score for your golf so you can compete. But absolutely, I see no reason why not. You've got a lot of these immersive, like theatrical experiences at the moment as well. So outside of that, escape rooms. But to be honest, it all fits under just offering something you can't get at home. One of the main things that came out of all our research post kind of that COVID time was people just wanted things they can't get at home. And actually, to replicate having a beer at home or a chilled glass of wine is quite easy. And that's why cocktails did pretty well, because it is trickier to produce a brilliant cocktail with the right garnish at home, but that's why you'd go out and have it. So that's a way to excite. And that's why I think this trend is really booming off the back of that pandemic, because people, you can't play mini golf at home. Well, you can. I probably tried over lockdown, but yeah, it's just that's why. So absolutely, I think it is something that should be spoken about in the same breath. Yeah.
You talked about Gen Z drinking less, but you also said low and no is not really working for you. So what's happening?
So what I think is happening is they're drinking less. So we know 49% of people are citing the fact that their online image is important to them and is something they think about when they're going out. They're also linking anxiety and vulnerability to alcohol. But that doesn't mean they're completely cutting out alcohol. And because we tend to fall as the beginning part of the night, that is where we're thinking those people are having one or two drinks. We also saw it in the forums where price is a factor in how much they drink. But when asked, would price ever put you off anywhere, or would you ever not go on a night out if you were feeling particularly skint? They'll say, no, we'd definitely go out, and we would definitely still purchase what we wanted to purchase. We'd just have less of it. So I'm probably showing my age, but in my day, we would go to the club night and we'd do, 2 vodkas for £5 and we'd drink as much as we could, as fast as we could. That is not what is happening now. They're choosing 1 or 2, maybe 3 premium quality drinks. And I think a big thing for Gen Z is about control, keeping that control and not doing anything that they would regret. Their entire lives is documented. So when I was 18 and getting drunk and falling over, well, no one's remembering it. No one's putting it online. Now, that is not the case. So I think that is what's happening. We're also an occasion-led destination, so birthdays, hen dos, there's more, I guess, pressure to drink in those environments and more willingness to drink too. I'll just have one, it's my birthday, or that kind of thing, I think.
I think it's also completely dependent on the venue. Like, I think from the competitive socialising research we did, it was like 10% of people have actually visited these places on their own, which I know if you haven't visited them, that sounds quite odd. But if you go to NQ64, you can absolutely see how you can. And there's lots of these gaming venues now as well that are opening up. So I think it's per venue. Like some, I can see low and no doing extremely well, whereas in others, potentially not so. So, yeah. All good? Okay, yeah, perfect. Well, yeah, thank you very much. If you do want to scan the QR code, you can get access to kind of weekly newsletters and customer insight trends. We just had a low and no report launch Wednesday last week, and a competitive socialising report around a month ago. But yeah, thank you, and definitely go visit Junkyard Golf.